Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of A Look Beyond the Continent. My name is Emil, and with my co-host Ezra today, we are doing a tier list on the Price of Power expansion cards. Really excited to be, ranking all these different cards that we've been playing over the last few months. And I think some of our predictions from our previous episodes may not be what actually happened when we went to play the cards. Ezra, what do you think of the Price of Power expansion cards? Are you excited to do a tier list?
Yeah, I mean, we know that these cards have been, what's our description that we like to say? Um, Broken but not broken. Uh, like some of them are very good for what they do in terms of like their provision costs and also just the tempo that they can create. Even as a bronze,
Mhm.
a lot of these cards were things that, we read about prior to the expansion coming out, and we just didn't know how they were going to interact with on the board. And now that we see them, in our day to day playing of games, it's just like, oh, okay, it's this deck again. I hate this deck. I don't want to see these cards. So it's like a love hate relationship for all the players right now in the community. Everybody likes to play that certain deck or faction, and they get to play these cards. But a lot of these cards, do see an insane amount of value, and then some are just very underwhelming. I mean, it seems like every expansion has that.
Yeah, for sure. Quite a few really good cards, and then there's some cards that we were going over this before we went live, and I was telling you I don't think I've seen this card played once at all. So, but before we get into the tier list, could you probably explain what a tier list is and what the different letters stand for those who don't know what a tier list is?
So yeah, a tier list is something like we're gonna break it down through these letters. So S tier for us would be, this card is very good. This is something you're probably gonna see in every deck. It's a must, an auto include. And we'll break down it with what kind of cards that it will be. And then, your A tier would be something like, um, I guess, we could say like, um, maybe like Blightmaker or something like that, or even Fur Card or whatever. Like any of these kind of cards that are most likely going to be in a deck just because they are good on their own.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
B tier is something that's like you'll see most of the time in a deck, but it's pretty much just going to play for its value. Um, it'll be just above and beyond. So maybe something like Megascope. Megascope, it's a 4P card, and then when you used it on a great sword, it made it into a 10P card basically. So something like that. C tier, it would be something like below average. Something that you'll see in a deck, but it will not be used very much. D tier, obviously, it just keeps getting worse and worse until we just get down to, you know, maybe it's just a card you just include, like a squirrel or something, obviously. But I mean, we're only talking about price of power cards, so in
Mm-hmm.
this list.
So you would say that
Yeah.
once we get to F tier, these are kind of cards that, in our opinion, and we're going to make a disclaimer here. All of these are just our opinions only. So this is all subjective. Everyone's got their own opinions, but
Yeah.
this is your and I's opinion about the cards. So we would, if we look at F, it's probably cards that we personally wouldn't play or we don't think are very good, right?
Exactly. Like unless there's like a very hard condition for it to get value. So yeah. But I mean
Yeah.
most of these cards are gonna pretty be like they're gonna be pretty highly ranked. A lot of these cards, even for a bronze, they're pretty very well off. So I have a feeling a lot of these cards will get rated pretty high. But we'll see. Like I said, just stay tuned throughout the video and you'll see how much will be up in the S or A tier or even, in those higher three tiers. And then we'll see how many get in the lower tiers as well.
Yeah, so maybe let's start. We've got a lot of cards to get through.
hmm
So first one is
So yeah.
Alyssa Henson. What do you
So
think
this
about
is
Alyssa
what is
Henson?
it? She's a bronze.
No, she's
No, no, she's
actually
not
a
a bronze. She's a
gold.
neutral.
She's
She's
a
a gold. That's right.
gold
Yeah.
7 provision card.
Um. Yes, I believe she's a what is it? Put a special card from your graveyard back into your deck, and if it's a bronze, return all copies of it back to the deck, right?
Yeah. So it says here, this is what Gwen's telling me. So on deploy, shuffle a special card from your graveyard to your deck. If it was a bronze, also shuffle one additional copy of that special. Okay, so I don't personally play this card at all. Like I don't think I've played it once. So I've seen this
Mhm.
card played with the waylays and then it gets put out with Simless. But when I'm just reading this now, it says shuffle one additional copy. So I actually thought that all the bronze copies of that card from the graveyard would go back to the deck, but it sounds like only you get two.
Right. Now, see, yeah, I think what people were doing was, weren't they just renewing her, right?
Oh, then how many times can you
Or
renew her
finding
though?
some, I don't know, like there was something. Is it that's a because that's a, is that considered part of the deploy effect, right? It's not an engine based effect that she has,
It's a deploy, yeah.
or
So
oh,
anyway, I
okay.
think I've seen people do it that way, but maybe I could be wrong. But where would you rate Alyssa? Because me personally, I don't think I can, rate her because I haven't actually used her, sadly enough. So
I
where
I
would you rate
used
her?
her. I would say she's probably somewhere around like the D tier, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
She's not very good, but she can be good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was a meme that I was talking with Andy a while back with one of our teammates, um, where I was using Alyssa to shuffle back like AA or something in a round.
Mm-hmm.
Because technically, when AA gets used in that round, it doesn't actually gain Doom until it actually goes back on top of your deck.
Okay.
So I remember I was on Blue Coin and I had Alyssa in my deck, and I was trying to experiment her with Alumni's.
Yeah.
Um, and I used AA to try to, not lose on even, just to get out of the round. And I'm stuck. I'm like, okay, well, that's my big play to get out of the round, and the opponent's still catching up. So I actually played Alyssa, shuffled back AA, and then used. I think I was using Pincer Maneuver at the time. I don't think people realized just like how good Inspired Zeal was, and I was able to use AA again in the same round.
Right. Okay. It does sound a bit. I mean, that kind of sounds mean. I've seen her. My opponents have done the waylays. I've also seen them put back maybe a bountiful harvest. But
Mm.
to be honest, I haven't come across her that often. Um, I maybe it depends on the ranking that you're at or which MMI you're at. But I actually haven't seen her that often. So I would probably say she's a D as well.
Yeah. I mean, she can be good in the right situations, and then she can just be really bad. I mean, it doesn't have to be a bronze. It could even be like a heat wave or something, or even an invo. Like,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
thin your deck down to to practically nothing, and you shuffle back one of these cards, and you draw into it by round three, you just got it again.
Hmm.
And we all know that a lot of decks, this season or this expansion have the ability to pretty much thin down to zero now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So the next card we have is the Alumni. Now, I've actually played a lot with Alumni. What about you, Ezra's?
Yeah, alumni are let's just say that they're a headache. we we assumed that they weren't gonna be really good in our video. We were just like, it just seems like it'd be a very hard condition for these to meet. Getting both to four, and now we're seeing a deck with Troy and Letitia, and like, if you don't have the answers to both right away, then you pretty much are just gonna lose. An alumni deck can go down to four cards even if you pass on seven, and they're okay. And then they just click Letitia, and then their alumni are both like melee 10, range 10. And it's like, well, okay. Now this
Yeah.
six division card's playing for 16 points. It's pretty crazy, or 14 points, whatever.
Yeah. So
Um,
if people aren't
and you can
familiar
make
with
so many copies with them.
the Alumni yet, it's basically whatever value patience that you get on your Arrow Tuesday student and Banner student, that's the power that your alumni will have, and it has zeal. So it's basically like, it feels like
Yes.
a deploy card almost. I mean, if you don't reach those required, I think it's a minimum of 4 for both. If you don't reach that required, you don't have zeal, so it is vulnerable at times. But I would say more often than not, you do get the zeal. Uh, you just can't. You don't. Not every deck has answers to, as you said, either a Letitia. It synergizes well, Letitia, or they don't have answers. Because, normally people include 2 copies of each student. They can always revive one with Shani to finish the I call it finishing the training. So
Yeah, no,
I
exactly.
yeah,
The-
I
Yeah, Shawnee,
personally
with the
love.
way that she got changed, it's like these students are playing way more for their value than they should be if they're allowed
Yeah,
to stick. So I would
yeah.
definitely say alumni are in the S tier rank. They're
Oh yeah,
very good.
100%. Very, very, very good
Um,
card. Would you argue that
I
this is more of a gold card?
yeah, I honestly would think that these cards should probably be considered like 7 or even 8 provisions because like the ability to play what is it like you have 2 from starting deck, um, 1 from Adalia, 1 from Chapter, uh, potentially 2 more from Dwims if you run the Dwims if you're full
Hmm.
in alumni.
You can play a lot of copies.
Yeah, so like you could play technically up to like what 6 or 7 copies, especially if you
It's
consider Shawnee as well.
You see it a lot
It's
happen
pretty
though.
nutty.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
happens quite often. I mean, that's
and
what
like
we've seen.
I think who was it? Andy and Team Creve. I think they came up with a list where like alumni's where they I think it was like a full in alumni list that they made like day one, and they had Letitia, and then they also had Tisea, and I think they were getting alumni up to like 45 points each. That was pretty crazy. I was like, that's just too much, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Alumni is a very good card. So let's move on to the next card. We were discussing this off air. I see 2 versions of this, right? Because this is actually the Bloody Mistress slash Ganakara card. But we have the next one is Ganakara. Basically, it's like the evolved version of Bloody Mistress.
Yeah. I mean, if we were gonna go off of like previous rating, then it would obviously have been an S tier. You know, when it was before it got nerfed, I guess in a sense.
I
Um,
think, yeah,
but I
I would say,
mean,
let's talk about it in the current state. Me
yeah,
personally, I do play with this
I would
card.
say
And
it's probably like a B tier
yeah,
now.
I was
You
going
don't
to
see
say
it too
B.
often.
No, I think, do you
Um,
remember when there was one season that Relics reigned supreme? I was playing it. I was actually
yeah,
playing it before I got, hot fixed. So it was like absolutely broken. So I was playing that with like
with
was it
Corinthia.
Corinthia? Yeah. So I was able to play with
Yeah,
Corinthia. She would, if you had Savage, she'd be a 1, but then she would transform into a 7. And so it was just
yep,
crazy for your opponent. So I think back in that day it would have been an S, but I think right now with the nerf, it's very hard to fit
yeah,
everything into a deck. So I would say it's a B tier as well.
yep. I agree. Like I remember this card when it, like I said, before the hot fix that it had, and you had Corinthia generating 2 copies of it, and then potentially a Darwin, as well. This thing was, I think I remember seeing Spiro actually getting like that combo to pull off a few times, and like 1 from the original copy, 1 from Coranthia, 1 from Adar, and it was getting like almost like 18 points a turn because there was 6 fruits on the board at once.
Oh geez,
It's
yeah.
pretty crazy.
It's hard to
Yeah.
answer that, yeah. So I think B
How do
tier.
you answer a card that's generating that many points a turn? That's
You can't.
basically like a Colgrim that's way better.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very, very insane back in the day, but I think at the moment it'd definitely be a B tier for sure. I think people have found
Yeah.
answers for it, and as you said, like with the nerf, it just totally changed, and especially the nerf with Corinthia as well.
Yeah, like I said, exactly. And basically, if you had the control options to answer the fruits, then it's just a card that just sits there. It's never going to gain any more points.
Yeah, awesome. So next we have the Aretusa student. This goes in with the alumni. We were just talking about it a minute ago. Aretusa student. I
Correct.
mean, it's got that patience value. So basically, this card gets stronger the longer it stays on the board. It goes up by 1 each turn. So where would you rate the Aretusa student?
I mean, when they came out, they were very what's the word
It
I'm
was a
looking
bit
for?
lackluster, right? Like people were kind of like,
Yeah,
I said
when
this
they
too. I was like,
when
oh,
they came out.
I don't have the patience for the patience, basically.
Yeah,
And then
no, that's the perfect description for them. They were just very. They had
slow.
to sit there all around or all around for them to get any value, and And it's something as simple as a squirrel, or now what we've seen, the reemergence of Xavier. They weren't getting very much value, and if you had to heat wave them, then if they weren't boosted, they were just technically, only worth 4 points unless they had a high amount of, damage or boost, on them. So yeah, I mean, now
yeah.
I'd say they're very good.
Yeah, I would say
I would even dare say they'd be in the A tier possibly, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say A tier because it's a necessity to make the alumni S tier. Like without the students, the alumni don't really mean anything. But because of these students, and there are only 4 provisions, so it's pretty much an auto include in a lot of Northern Realms mages deck. Like any mages deck, you would include this. So I would say they're an A tier. And we could probably pop the Banard student in there too. He's just only 2 spots away, so we can pop him into A.
Yeah, and he's excited. It all ties in with Alumni. If these cards get to pop off for an entire round, this thing is going to be playing for a ton of value. And like I said, if behind the lore value, we already know that both of these are the Alumni. They're just grown up.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
And I noticed, who was it? I think it was Spessy. Spessy was pointing out something when he was making his Alumni deck. What did
he say?
He was saying that the alumni, if you listen to their voice lines, right, they are actually referring to like, why won't they die? Why won't they die? And I think they're referring to the illusionists.
I think they say why won't they fall?
Yeah, or why won't they fall? Yeah. So yeah, if you listen to that, and I think there's like a little portion of their art, or in their art, you can see like the body of the illusionists. So I think they are fighting the illusionists from Nilfgaard.
Nilfgaard. Makes sense.
Yeah, which is pretty neat.
Speaking of Nilfgaard, we have Alto Terenova as the next card. Personally, I love Terenova. If I play NG, I feel like he's an auto include. He's insanely strong.
Correct, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, he's better. He's basically a better ball and usurper all thrown into one.
Yeah, you have to give spying to a unit that you want to spawn a base copy of, but the fact that it can be any card, as long as you gave spying to it, it's pretty insane. So, I mean, like there's the combos. You can do a lot of good combos with this. Like, I mean, NG is known, to copy your opponent's deck. Basically, you're basically playing your opponent's deck for them.
Yeah.
And so like Terenova,
they're gonna play your deck. They're gonna play your deck and play it better.
Yeah, so I think it would be S for sure. Like no question about that.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. I mean, he's an auto include card. You're never not gonna want to include this guy. Same thing with like, you're never gonna not want to include Brathens with him. They get a lot of value off of each other, being both assimilate engines.
Yeah. So next we have Verification, which is I think it's a neutral card. I don't know why initially I thought it was like a Skellige thing, but it's actually just a neutral card. I've played Verification. I've included it in some of my decks, so it's definitely something I think is playable. Me personally, I think it would probably be like a C.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's good when it wants to be. Especially if you want to make a dead artifact, actually play for something else beyond its initial value.
Yeah, just play.
I see people use it on megascopes. Even the totem that is just gonna sit there if it carries over. If you never got to click it, whatever. Mushy truffle. If you've already used it enough times, then yeah, that'll work as well. So I mean, it just really depends. But I mean, it's still like just a 10-point card for 6 provisions.
Which is not bad. Have you ever played this card defensively instead of transforming on your side? Have you ever used it to transform your opponent's, I guess, scenario or something like that?
I did it once. I think I did it once or twice. I did it once. I transformed. I transformed a Gedonith because I was running a Reckless Flurry list with this in there. I transformed a Gedonith, and then I also transformed a Mushy Truffle. But I think that was it. Oh, and Feign Death. I did a Feign Death. That's right. But I've never had like, Siege or Masquerade Ball because those aren't really being played as much. But yeah,
Hmm.
like I mean, those kind of plays, yeah, they do make sense. But it is still weird to give your opponent, a free 10 points for doing that
Yeah.
because it's giving them
It's
what, an
actually
elder bear and
it's
boosting
six.
them by 4.
Nah, it's if it's on your side, it boosts by 4, so it only plays for 6 on your opponent's side.
Yeah, oh, well, a 6 point card. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Correct.
it is awkward to
It's
give
on
me
your
6
side.
points, but sometimes you have to do the maths and think, okay, would I rather if you don't have a heat wave per se, like if you don't run heat wave and you have verification, it's like I would rather
Right.
my opponent have 6 points than to have like I don't know 20 odd points from and like the synergies that come with playing a scenario out. So you kind of deny them of that, but yeah, I haven't done it that often. I've just done it a couple of times if I feel like I really needed to do it.
No, yeah. Like I mean, it's like one of those hit or miss cards,
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we can move on to the Bloody Effigy card.
Mm-hmm.
Now this has more, synergies with Bloody Mistress and Gurney.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I just noticed something. We could actually put this probably together.
Yeah, they can be together.
Yeah. It's just it's basically a bronze squirrel, but with a boost tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's banish a bronze unit, and whatever its power is, that's how much you can boost a unit on your side with.
Yeah.
And if you control Gurney or Bloody Mistress, then you can banish a gold unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd say somewhere around D tier. It's basically just a bronze squirrel.
Yeah, I played with that a few
card.
times when I was playing with Bloody Mistress, but it was very conditional as well. Because sometimes your opponent doesn't have a high power bronze unit, or if they did have a gold, like it depended on the timing. Like it depended on what was already in their graveyard. So I found it was a very conditional card, and yeah, I didn't love it.
Yeah, I think I actually did this yesterday. Yeah, I was playing my Simulate list, the typical meta list. And I, put down my Lydia and I actually pulled this card and I did the math. I'm like, okay, I got stuck with Bloody Effigy, Natural Selection, and Feast of Blood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, one's going to do 4 damage, another one's going to do, 3 damage, and if I had a vampire, it does, 3 bleeding, so I didn't have one of those. So I was like, okay, Bloody Effigy it is, and they happen to have a Griffin in the graveyard.
Yeah.
So Lydia played for a lot of more points than she should have been, and that was only because, Griffin's a 9-point bronze.
For monsters, yeah, but I say I guess if your opponent was say like Nilfgaard or something, which they don't have many high-powered bronze units. Monsters they definitely do, but for Nilfgaard, not many. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't play it too much. I did experiment with it, but I didn't love it. So I definitely think it's a D tier card.
Yeah, it just depends on what's in the graveyard for your opponent. So yeah, moving on. We got our famous Blightmaker combination.
Well, the Mage Assassin is somewhere in the list, but I think we'd have to put these two together. I mean, if you played the Blightmaker on its own, like forget about the Mage Assassin. If you played it on its own, I actually still think it's quite good. Because it's flexible.
It's a wolf pack.
Yeah, I mean,
if you ever heard of that card.
Yeah, so like you could move something to the top of your deck, so you have like a good top deck, and then also it spawns like a 3 power unit, or you could play like put a special in the top, and then have a running carcass on the other side. But I think it's a really good bronze, and I would definitely put it as an ATR card.
Yeah, I would agree. This card alone can sometimes win rounds. I've seen Nilfgaard literally just tempo ahead of golds just with Blightmaker alone.
I mean, it's a thinning card as well.
Yeah, it's thinning plus points and then plus damage. Like I said, I think it. Obviously, you're never really gonna play Mage Assassin from hand on its own, unless you're forced to, or unless you pull it from Joachim, which seems to happen for every Nilfgaard player. They play Joachim and they pull out, the 10-point Mage Assassin and then do the 2 damage, so it's technically 12. But no, you never really want to do that unless you have to.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen that happen too many times, and I think, that's just something I try to avoid. But it
Right.
was like when you've got no choice, you've got no choice, and it's always funny on like the
Exactly.
other side when you see it come out, you're like, huh.
Yep, because it's like, oh, okay, well now I know you have a bricked card in your deck.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so these cards alone, they're really good. Just because of the amount of flexibility they can offer.
Hmm.
When it comes to I've literally probably what I shouldn't have closed gaps very quickly if my opponent passed early. Just with these cards alone, just a
Yeah,
Blightmaker, Mage Assassin, and it's worth
touch
11
up.
points.
Mm.
Yep, it's still very good.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's almost like an auto include in every Nilfgaard deck.
Yeah, oh yeah. Like it's auto include with DMT as well. And like we're getting to DMT soon, so I
Yeah,
would say even DMT would definitely belong in S or A tier as well. Once we get
yeah,
to it.
yeah. Bountiful Harvest. What do you think of Bountiful Harvest? Because I've been playing a lot of
Oh,
Square's Gift, and I think when we did our episodes, I don't know if maybe I didn't talk up this card too much, but I absolutely love this Bountiful Harvest card. It does a lot, it buffs your units in your hand. Um, and you can always produce like something crazy like a Whisperer or a Sorceress. I actually play Cat Witches in my gift deck.
hmm
It's not very commonly seen. And then you get the Sentry, so then you get the synergy with Gezrus and the Cat Witches. So I don't know. I love
yeah,
this card.
that's
So I think it's
yeah. This I would say it's an S tier.
yeah, I love it.
Just because of how many copies that gift players are able to play, especially off of our famous card here at the bottom. When it's buffed up to a 6. Um, but yeah, this card is definitely very good. Um, and it's like I think what is it? Is it usually technically more sometimes to play with Forest Protector than a Rebuke?
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
Forest Protector into Rebuke is to remove a threat of some sort. But if you
Right.
want to be greedy, then you can do Forest Protector into a Bountiful Harvest into like a Sorceress or something or a Whisperer.
Yeah,
Or
and
even
that's
even like
probably
the
more
archers in there.
points.
That's still points.
Yeah. And it just gives you, the initial value from the card and then also the hand buff for later. So yeah, like I said, this card is very good in my opinion. Bright of the Sea. So this one is one of those conditional cards. It's very good for it being a gold.
Mm-hmm.
It determines how much rain is on the board or storm for it to replay something from your opponent's or from your graveyard. But what I'm seeing now a lot is it's okay if you don't have any rain on the board storm on the board,
Mm-hmm.
because Bride of the Sea is able to replay Golden Froth from Mushy Truffle, and
Because
it just
Golden
that's
Froth
its
is
base value.
Golden Froth
It's
is
an alchemy.
provision 4 as well, right?
Yeah, it's an alchemy card, and then with this whole Getty deck that's re-emerging with all the alchemy plays that it has. I've seen Bride of the Sea play even for more points, with Golden Froth and Bonded Preachers, um, with no rain on the board than her actually having rain on the board.
Yeah.
So I would
I
say yeah, she wasn't very good when she came out, because she was only going to bring back Sigtrophy's right, which gave Melusine a chance to come back every round.
mhm.
But again, you had to generate what is it? I would say 4 or 5 turns of rain, which
I
Did
is
can't
she
not
close
very
I
this,
good.
guess
sorry.
did she always play
I can't
for
because it's gonna mess
provision
up my
4
timing.
unless for like pulling out an alchemy card for your grave? Was she always like that? I feel like she used to
Yeah,
be
she
able.
was.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she was. That part was always her base value. It
Okay.
was
So
if you didn't have.
yeah, forgive me. I actually haven't played her, so but
Yeah, like
it says increase the cost by total duration. So assuming you've got like 4 turns of rain on your opponent's side, then that means you would be able to play like an 8 provision alchemy. Is that correct?
yes, you would be able to replay Signifer's Right, Offering to the Sea, Tears of Siren, Giga
Okay,
Scorpion,
so it
all of those
yeah.
cards.
So it depended on how much. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I just didn't even know that. I should have paid attention But
Like I said, if we're going
I
off
mean,
of current rankings, I would say she's probably A tier, maybe even
yeah, I
S,
think she would be.
because one of these two tiers. I mean, it's debatable. It just depends on how you're playing her. If
Yeah.
she's being replayed with Golden Froth from Mushy Truffle, or even Marjoram. Marjoram obviously plays for a ton of points as well. If you have bonded preachers on the board.
Yeah, exactly. I play a lot of alchemy. I just actually don't have Bride of the Sea in my deck, but been playing a lot of alchemy. It's just a lot of points.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard to beat that deck sometimes. Sometimes they don't even care if they get Getty Heatwave because they got Mushy Truffle with
Yeah,
Dwellers and
honestly, yeah, I was talking to Shiminori about this, and because you have Getty and Truffle, I'm like, I always find people heatwave my Getty, and it's not the end of the world.
right.
So
Because you're like, okay, well, Dwem is just gonna go off now.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. I did have someone
I see
heatwave my
that.
Truffle the other day, and I was like, ooh, smart.
Yeah, Truffle, like I said, I think is worth more than Getty in the long run.
Mm.
So we have Casting Contest, one of my favorite cards actually. Just
Mm-hmm.
because this man right here has got a glowing dick. Just kidding.
No,
No.
it's a glowing foot, right?
No, 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 no. Look at Casting Contest. Look at it. Go play the premium of it. This
I
guy
think
is.
okay. Let
No,
me.
no, no. I'm serious. Everybody pointed it out when this card came out. He's like, bro, he's got a magic dick.
Oh yeah, he's showing it off.
Yeah, he's like, yo, look what I can do with it.
Yeah. I
It
just
cracked me
noticed it
up. I
now.
was like,
Thanks.
I can't believe they threw that in there.
Now I can't unsee it.
Yep, now you can't unsee it. See it now. It's burned into your eyes.
I feel like casting contest is very good, especially synergizing with the
Yeah.
students and the alumni. So I would even say this is an A tier card.
Yes, very so. Very much so. Just because, like, yeah, it's a boost plus 5, and it regains a zeal if it's a bronze.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
so this
it's
keeps your
really good.
alumni alive. This keeps your students alive. Yeah, and it allows you to redo it again. So yeah, this card for a what is it, 5, right? Isn't casting contest a 5 provision?
It's 5
Yes,
provisions.
I
Yeah,
think.
so it boosts allied unit by
Yeah,
5, and if it's bronze, reset its order and
yeah.
give it zeal. So
So
gives
it
it a
could
lot
get
of
more
things.
value, right?
Yeah, definitely a good card.
So we have well, also another one of my favorites, just because of the art that this card has. Its premium is also it's one of those subtle premiums, just because it doesn't have a lot going on, but it's just
You can see the
the
people
way that it
marching.
looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the people marching. All I believe those are either people going to war,
Mm-hmm.
to attack the mages, or if that's a bunch of mages. I'm not sure. But
So
either way, it's a very cool card.
yeah, what do you think of putting it? Because I'm debating, right? So I actually remember when this first came out. I said, "Oh, it's really expensive for movies. It's not a scenario; it's a location." I mean, now
Mm.
we've discovered like Dwim can reset it, so you can play it multiple times, which is cool. But I'm debating whether I'm gonna put this in S tier or A tier. Like I do really like this card,
Um,
but I don't know if it's an auto include.
I think it's an auto include if it's an alumni deck. If
Mm-hmm.
it's like a siege dual deck, if people are still playing that, it probably drops down in value. But like I said, if it's an alumni deck, it's definitely an S tier because we know that it plays a rune word. Um, and if you have spellweavers on the board, that's 2 triggers basically because you're getting one off of the spell play. Because spellweavers generate a damage charge for either a spell played or if a mage is played. So that alone is really good on its own, and then also its carryover for later. What I've also seen too is really the neat interaction that it has. Even if it's playing a base copy of an alumni,
Mm-hmm.
if that alumni has a lot of value already attached to it, then
Mm-hmm.
it's spawning it right away at its value. It doesn't come down as a 0 point card
Mm-hmm.
basically. So
Okay, so
I would say it's an S
S.
tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have was it confession
Confession
extractor? Is that what
extractor.
it's called? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm already
Um.
thinking of putting this. When it first came out, I think people were thinking like, "Oh, this card's so crazy and it's gonna be insane." And then I think people experimented it there, and I think it didn't live up to maybe its hype. I don't think it's a bad card. I just don't know where I'd put. I'm tossing it between D or E.
I mean, it's what is it? It's profit 5, and then it's for every bounty you place, it does 1 damage from the graveyard, right? And it's up to 3.
Yeah.
So it's at most an 8 for 5, right? I mean, it does its job. I mean, profit 5 is quite a bit. And then the 3 damage. So I would say, yeah, it's probably like around C tier, maybe D tier.
Yeah.
It just depends. If it's an all-in bounty deck, then like with Witchfinder or Graydon or whatever, I don't know. Like, then yeah, or Professor. Okay, with Professor, it's actually very good because Professor allows you to kill up to something even up to a 5
like
or
a
even
5,
a 6
yeah.
if you have 2. If you had 2 of them in graveyard, then it's a 6. That's pretty crazy for a Professor value.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen people play 2 though.
Yeah, I did. I tried it out when I was running the whole. I think it was like a line pocket, or not line pockets. What's the other one?
Jackpot?
No. Well, actually,
Pirates
was it
Cove?
Jackpot?
Pirates Cove?
Yeah, Pirates Cove.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was doing Pirates Cove, and I was playing both of them, and then I was, using my Professor to kill a 6-point card, which was pretty crazy. And then getting the 6 bounty or the 6 coins from the bounty or whatever, or depending on whatever else it was. Even if it was a Bear Witcher, that was still really good too.
Mm.
So yeah, it just depends on what it's being played with. We have the famous DMT. It was very busted
Dead
at
Man's
one
Tongue.
point when it came out. Yeah, Dead Man's Tongue.
So
When
can
it
you
came
remind
out-
me what it did when it came out? Because I don't think I was around for that.
So, it allowed you to banish up to 2 bronzes from your deck. Oh, actually, it allowed you to banish a bronze from your deck, and if it was a bronze, obviously, then it allowed you to banish a second copy, and then it buffed it by the provisions of those cards.
Okay.
So what the unintended effect was when people played it, it showed their deck in order. Yeah, and it was really controversial that that the CDPR team, well, the Gwent team, allowed this effect to stay active during like the first open.
Yeah, did people know about that because the card told you, or is it something people just figured out?
I think it was something people just figured out, that they just noticed that, hey, why is my deck is in order every time I see this card. It was basically like a maxi
I
came
heard
with
back
extra
in the
points.
day as well, and it got changed, that cards like Amphibious Assault, Blood Eagles, when you played those, it allowed you to see your deck in order, and I think people may not have known about it. It just was something that CDPR had included. Like, it didn't tell you that it was in order. It just was like, it would show you the order of your deck, and some people knew, some people didn't.
Yeah, when that whole controversy was first discovered with AA and Blood Eagle, and all those cards, or mostly all the Echo cards. I think it was something that was kept hidden. A lot of the pro players who were at the top of the world,
You know about it.
world ladder, they knew about it and they weren't going to say anything.
Anyone, yeah.
And then finally, we as the peon community saw it in the patch notes, and we were just shocked that we had never noticed it all this time for 3 months those cards were out.
That's funny. Look, I love Dead Man's Tongue. I think it's such a great card. I feel like it's an auto include as well, but Nilfgaard. That's why you don't see much. Like, there is a few different archetypes with Nilfgaard, but it's more or less the same. Like, it's just
a lot of tempo, a lot of thinning.
I don't know. Maybe,
I was gonna say
I think it's S tier. I think it's
A tier minimum.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's thinning, right? You banish 2 bronzes that you might not want for that game, but also it boosts a unit by up to 10, maybe 11 if you want to banish a gold. Who does that? Yeah, I don't know. I really love this card, and especially we'll get to him soon. When you play it with Furcart, it's just awesome. I don't know. I love this card a lot.
Yeah, fur card, magic lamp. DMT gives you something where like it's just good proactivity. You know, if you have magic lamp on the board, or if you have
Mhm.
fur card in hand, fur card DMT Blightmakers is like, oh, okay, you know, okay, I'm about to punish my opponent. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
like
put
you've
out a
just
lot of
thinned your
points
deck
very
enough.
quickly.
Yeah, and it's a lot
Yeah,
of points for it's I mean it's gold, but you're banishing some bronzes and then you're thinning. And I don't know. I just that's
like
why
what is it? Fur card into DMT. That's one, two, three. Plus Blightmakers. That's 5 cards thin from deck.
yeah.
Just from, you know,
Because
from
remember
four
with
cards.
Milkglad, you had to play Roderick to kind of tutor out your goals. But now with that
Hmm.
so much thinning going on, it's like you don't actually need it. You just need to thin
I
well early
yeah.
on, and then
I
you'll get your goals for sure.
exactly. I remember I was talking to Evades a long time ago, and I'll never forget this conversation. We were talking about like when I was coming up with a lot of SK decks at the time, and I was streaming consistently every day. He was surprised that I was getting, you know, a lot of my SK decks down to like 1 or 2 cards. Like back then, that was unheard of to get a lot of your cards, you know, your deck down to that minimum of cards. Um, and it was with an ice deck, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just okay. Now it's just we just readily accept it. You know, you can get your deck down to 0 cards.
Yeah, easily. You can see a whole deck.
So yeah, moving on to Dwim.
Dream Andra, I feel like she's a little bit underrated. Like on her own, she's just a four, right? If you've got
Yeah,
um, no scenario or um, chapter of wizards or mushy truffle, then yeah, she's just a four. I've sometimes bricked her if my opponent one time the other day they heat waved my mushy truffle around 3, and then my dwib was just a 4, and I lost the game. So she can be just a
yeah.
brick, but if played with the right things, then she plays for an insane amount of points. Like I play the Getty mushroom deck right now, and I just reset the mushy truffle. That's
Right.
4 plus
I would
6
say
plus the synergies with the
yeah.
creatures. And same with chapter. Like you can reset the chapter, play alumni, make another copy. So
Well, see here
um,
the thing with the chapter of where the this is where Dwim gets a little tricky is Dwim is
we made
actually a
this mistake.
mage.
All of us have.
Yeah,
So
we've made this
when you
mistake.
play
So
Dwim,
when you activate Dwim's ranged ability and refresh, you know, the
and
order
she comes
ability of a
up,
location,
yeah,
she comes up as the last mage played. So you have to play Dwim, then find a way to play another alumni to spawn another alumni if it
yeah.
is an alumni
It would
deck.
take another turn, so you would refresh it, and then you would play the next card, and then click. But
Yep.
yeah, I've done that before.
Or like I said, yeah, I've done it plenty of times. Where like, oh shit, okay,
Yeah.
I had it's because it was the only thing I had left to to spawn. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
But at least it's
this is
another 4, I
what I have to
guess.
do.
It's not
Yeah, so
totally hopeless.
very good when she works, very bad when she doesn't. So
Yeah. I think
would you
B
say B or
is
C?
B is
Yeah,
good.
we'll just go off of where when she can be really good because most of the time she will get value with the amount of location and or no, well not even well yeah, it's the amount of artifacts that we have in our deck most of the time.
Yeah.
Then we have the Elven Seer, right?
Yep. I think this is a B as well. Because
Yeah.
it's like Dwim. It's conditional. Like if you most of the time you will have something to put on her. Like remember when the orbs were really popular and people were making like a lot of copies. But the thing is she's vulnerable. Like you can't it's hard to play her like put her down and then instantly play something else. Like normally you'll have to play her hope she sticks and then you can play whatever you want to copy, like a special card that you want to copy.
Right.
Lately I've seen um ST actually play Mushy Truffle and then they'll do Golden Froth on her, so that's actually a lot. But
Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy. I've seen that too. I think I actually discovered that by accident, like a while back when I tried it out, and I was like, "Oh, that works." I had no idea, but
yeah,
it has to be that she's in the center and you target her. It cannot be
she's like
her on the left or the
adjacent.
right.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
you have to actually
she has
target
to be the
her.
one that's targeted.
Yeah,
So it's a little bit of a positioning nightmare. with Mushy Truffle and Seer. But I mean, if you get to pull it off, then it's a lot of points because it's basically gonna play another 6 point card right away.
Yeah, it's
I saw Spiro the other day do this. Shout out to Mr. Spiro, for being on our last video. But I saw him. I'm sure everybody's made the mistake too that he played, Mushy Truffle, and then played the Seer. Uh, Clicked his Mushy Truffle, and then he was stunned that it didn't play a second copy because he didn't target Seer.
mm,
It
yeah.
was she was on one of the left or the right.
Yeah, so I think you have to target her for it to work. But look, I think she's a B tier card. If at most she gets removed, she's a 4, whatever. But if you can actually get the specials onto her, like even a tempering, right? It's like 10 points. So
Yeah, even a tempering is very good.
mhm.
So yeah, moving on, we have Mr. Fabian Hale.
Mhm.
Uh,
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I've ever played him. I don't play much
I mean,
Syndicate, so
yeah,
I can't, you know, really judge these cards. And I haven't really seen him played that often. Like I know Bounty is kind of making its rounds in the ladder, but I don't see Fabian. I see the Brute more often than not.
right, yeah, Fabian's. Yeah, I'd say he's very underwhelming. I believe, what is it? He's an Intimidate engine,
Yep.
and then what is it?
He places a
Place a
bounty on
bounty.
an enemy unit. If there already was an enemy unit with bounty, gain coins equal to its base power. So a lot of conditions there.
Yeah,
And he's
I'd
full
say he's
power.
probably like maybe a D.
Yeah, I would say he's a D. Maybe
Yeah.
even E. Like I don't know. I don't play him. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's just put him down to F. F for Fabian.
Do you
That
think
works.
that's hot? Oh yeah, I don't see it played at all. Like have you
Yeah,
seen
I
it?
don't see it. No. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you were playing the whole Witchfinder deck, I've never seen Fabian play it. I think people choose to ignore him and just go straight for the Brute, the Scoundrel, Octavia, obviously, and then that's it. I don't think I've ever seen anything else in the Ignatius. It's always been just those four. I've never seen Fabian played.
Mm. Yep. So let's move on to Furcard.
Yeah.
We were talking about it before with the Dead Man's Tongue. I personally love
I
Furcard.
yeah. He's one of my favorite cards from this expansion. His Ice Premium is one of the first ones I did, and
yeah,
I just loved his effect. He's a thin engine. Well, he's a draw card plus thinning, and then he allows you to play a special from hand. So like it's basically allowing you to play 2 cards from hand, which is very insane on its own.
Yeah.
And then he's also a spy engine as well. For every special you play, he places a spying tag on any unit that doesn't have spying already on the board, as long as it's a non-spying unit or a disloyal unit. So yeah, like this guy, easily an S tier, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
he
agree.
wins games.
He's very good. He gives the spying tag to like the right ones as well. Every time you play.
Yeah, like I don't think I've ever seen him miss.
No, me too. Yeah. He somehow gets in there. So there's quite a few specials that you can play with Nilfgaard, especially if you're copying your opponent as well. So yeah, I love this card and definitely agree he's S tier.
Yeah, just because with Furcard into DMT, he's becomes a very hard engine to remove, unless you use a tall punish on him. And yeah, like I said, he sets up a lot of bronze spying, or not bronze spying, but a lot of spying on cards that you would normally want to set up for with Terenova.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, moving on, we have Mr. Philavandrel.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Kuseno been playing this card a lot lately. Like, I think he's pretty much made this guy auto-include in his deck.
Okay.
He's been playing a lot of Precision Strike, I think, and a lot of movement.
Yep.
And I've seen him play for a lot, but like I said, yeah, he has to be hand buffed to the right numbers. If he's buffed to a 7 or an 11, then he's effectively useless.
Yeah, I think you have to be
careful there are no 7
with this
and
card
11.
Because I've bricked this before and I was like, and I played it on, I think it was the one where it's like the exact, so it may be melee. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, that's melee.
Nothing came out.
If it's If it's melee, it has to be exact. So 7 or
Mhm.
11 are the scary numbers that you want to avoid with him. So it's kind of scary to play him with Dunka and then also have like Bountiful Harvest or Smugglers or whatever.
Yeah.
Because if all of those hand buffs hit him in the right way, then he's effectively a dead card. Um, he's not really dead. It's just you can't create exactly what you want to play if you do him on range, because then it's range. It's anything below his current
Yeah,
power
equals or
level, and
lower.
that's
Yeah.
just a
Sometimes
that's a
you get.
lot of cards in the pool.
Yeah, exactly. I've played him on range, and I was like, he's buffed to like an 11. Why am I getting like a rebuke?
Right. So
Look,
yeah, I would say he's probably
I'm
a
gonna
B
say
tier.
B. Yeah. Did you say
Yeah,
B?
because like if he's buffed to an 8 or a 10, then he allows you to play, Council or Call of the Forest. Then he's worth a lot of points because he's worth, you know, it's yeah, it's situational. It depends on what you have in your deck for these cards to be played again. Um, yeah, so like when Phil Evandro came out, people were like, oh, okay, he's just a worse Francesca with a bigger condition. Has to be hand buffed.
Speaking of.
And then with Francesca, yeah, and then with yeah, it's funny how she's up next, and that's his daughter,
Yeah.
I believe, right? Isn't that the lore?
She's the daughter, yes. Oh,
Yeah,
is it
I think I think
Philipendra?
she's his daughter.
I yeah, I think it is actually.
No, or is it Simlas? I always get him confused.
Oh wait, hang on. Simless? No, I think it's Simless, right? Because Francesca's in the background of Simless's card.
Well, then
Anyway, we
yeah,
need to look
Simlas
this
and
up.
Francesca. Yeah, I don't really keep up with Squirtle lores that much, but I'm pretty sure I think it's Simlas and Francesca, that's father and daughter.
So yeah, Francesca, I don't see her play very often, to be honest. I
Yeah.
think because she just never sticks. I mean, she's a 7
Well, yeah,
power. She's awesome, but
7
she can't
power,
stick.
10 provisions with Veil. She's has flexibility. It doesn't have to be a square tail card, like like Finn. The problem with her is it's a counter of 3, and your opponent really won't care unless it's down to 1 counter.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when she was played, it was instant heat wave. It was like, okay, answer her right away or I lose.
Mm-hmm.
And she's never really been like that big of a threat,
No, I don't
unless
think
you were
so.
playing like a shaping nature or a heat wave or whatever. Like maybe in that sense, she was scary, but
And you
anymore
also,
now, she's
and
not really.
I think because it's like there's a 3 counter, you have to like make sure that you've got enough specials for it to, I guess,
Yeah,
go down, and then also ensuring that the special that you actually want a copy of is played. So I think there's a lot of sequencing that has to happen, and then you're having to kind of worry about that on your side, and then dealing with your opponent. So I think that's why she doesn't get played that often, because especially when with the orbs when it was popular, if every time you played a special, then potentially an orb would come out, right, and then she would be playing that as a special, which is not the end of the world, but maybe if you were aiming for a different special, then I think you just have to sequence it right, and it can be a little bit tricky. That's just my opinion. I think that's why she doesn't get played that often. I would say she's probably like either a
C
C or
tier.
a D.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, C or D, one of those tiers. It's subjective. To where she belongs. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we'll just say she's in the D tier, just for the sake of the video.
Just for
So
the sake
moving
of putting
on.
something.
Yeah, moving on. We're on to the most busted SK card to ever come out in existence. Even scarier than Herald's was back in the day. Um,
Yeah,
Fukusia
I
or
love Fukusia. She's an auto include for sure.
Fukusia, however
I
you
don't
want to
think we
call
need to
her.
even go into that because everyone just knows what she does.
Yeah,
Like I
everybody knows what she does.
yeah.
She's just busted. 13p, anything that you want to bring back under 10 provisions, sign me up for, yes, auto include. All the way.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have this episode has been going on for quite a while, so I think we have time for maybe 2 or 3 cards, I think. And I think we'll have to do a part 2 or maybe a part 3, right? There's a lot of cards to get through.
Possibly. Yeah, especially since we're talking about them all. So yeah,
let's
we'll do Fomar,
yeah,
and then we'll probably finish on Gearheart. How about that?
perfect. So we have
So yeah, we'll say Fomar, very good, very situational. He's a 12 for 12 on deploy. He's allowed to play Tears of Siren.
I think he's an A. Like in my opinion, I don't play him, but he can do a lot, and I think it just works well with the Rain archetype. Like he's something that you definitely play with Rain. So if you set him up well, like he just plays for a lot of points. So I would say A.
Yeah, just simply because he stacks up a lot with a lot of value for Ryogan, especially if you convert all the rain that you put on the board, on a single row, for Storm. That's a lot of turns of damage for Ryogan. So yeah, I would say he's around probably like an A or B tier. He's one of those must answer cards for sure. You can't let him just stick on the board if you have a lot of units.
It's hard to answer him though. I wouldn't say it's easy to, and because normally they play it deep into the round, and you're also trying to answer because you've got Fukusia as well, normally in that deck. So there's a lot of threats. I would say you've still got the Messenger of the Sea as well. So like that's a threat. I find Rain is because not many people last season a lot of people doing a lot of Xavier Lemons and Squirrels. So I think Rain took a backseat a little bit because when it first came out, everyone played it and everyone's like, oh my god, we just need to get stuff, like rid of the stuff in the graveyard, right? So we saw a lot of things
hard target.
Yeah, so we saw a lot of graveyard hate. And I think now people have like taken the graveyard hate stuff out. And then I think Rain's come back in. So I've been playing against a lot of Rain and I just don't have the answers. Like can't get rid of the Ryogan, can't get rid of the Fulmar because I've already tried to heat wave the Melusine and you know what I mean? Because they can bring Melusine back as well. So it's just
we all know when a monster or when a Rain player comes up against the monsters deck, their heart just drops when their Melusine gets up to 20 to 30 points, and you're like, is the Osro in this deck?
Yeah,
I know. I made a guy forfeit when he had his 32-point Melusine in the graveyard, and the first thing I played,
Osro
in round 3 was Ozzy for 32 points, and he just forfeited right away. So satisfying to do.
Yeah. So if you can answer it, it's good, but if you can't, then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, like I said, Melusine, Fomar, Ryogan, all these cards, very dangerous if they're allowed to stay, underwhelming if they're answered. But yeah, pretty much we could probably do this entire section right here. Ryogan, Melusine, Cultist, like all this stuff can probably all go really quickly. But like you said, you want to break it up into another video, then give people some more in-depth, our reviews of these cards.
I think so.
So yeah, let's move on to Gancian, or Gancian, however you want to pronounce it.
I think
very good card.
I think it's an A card, to be honest. But tell me your thoughts.
It's a 9-point card. If you have relics set up for it.
It's 5 provisions. It's not exactly expensive. So.
But if it has relics set up, it's a very good card, especially with Self Eaters. And also, like in a short round, if you have like a Crohn's as part of your plays, then with this card, you can pretty much win a short round just with these guys alone with the Crohn's. I know I did it. I think I won 2 cards down against Nilfgaard one time, back when relics were like tier 1.
You know what
I had all 3. I had, I think, my last 2 Crones, and then I had like 2 of these, and I ended up beating the Nilfgaard against Terenova Brattons by 20 or more points.
Because it's just a lot of points, but also what you could do as well, because it's base power. So when it goes into the graveyard, it's actually a 9, potentially. And so if you do a Mamuna, you've still got another one in your deck. You could, pull that would be like a 9 for Mamuna. 9 plus 2 for Mamuna, so that's 11, and then possibly if you got another relic on the like 2 relics on the board, that'll play for another 9. So I don't know. I
All right.
really do like this card. I personally think it's A, maybe B if you want to say, but I don't know. Like if you are playing relics, I think it's an you know a card that you definitely include.
We'll say definitely B. Yeah, like I said, yeah, it has to be an all-in relic deck
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise there may be times it could brick and it's just a 5 point card.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Gearheart.
Mm-hmm.
Gearheart.
I
Very,
think for
very
me,
good.
easily he's an S.
Yes, easily an S.
He's so
He
powerful.
belongs. He belongs in the alumni deck for sure. Hell, when he came out alone, we were like, okay, 11 provisions, and he plays for 13 points on deploy. He's a 7 base power card. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that was very good. Um, it still is very good, especially since he has synergies with Spellweavers.
Mm-hmm.
He can keep your alumni alive, and sometimes people are just ignoring the pack now altogether because of
Mm-hmm.
alumni, and they're going for practice makes perfect or even teleportation to replay them again.
Yeah, I find that he gets answered if he is like allowed to stick, unless you've got him behind a defender, or you know for a fact that
Hmm.
your opponent has no more removal, then you can be a little bit greedy and go up to like maybe a 5, even a 6 if you want like a. Sorry, I mean even artifact compression's a 5, so you could even do that. It's funny though, like because sometimes I have tried to do artifact compression with him to say like answer like a god or something that's really boosted, and then I never find it. So it's very conditional. But uh yeah, it's just I mean, he's got zeal, so you can play him straight away, and he plays for an insane amount of points if you synergize with like the other mages on the board. So yeah, I think he's an S tier. Like I feel like he's always included in any mage deck.
Yeah, like he's an auto include card for Northern Realms now in general. It doesn't even have to be in an alumni deck. I've seen him in duels to keep a Selkirk alive, just throw a pact on him, or
Mm-hmm.
even an Unseus. Like all these possibilities. Varaxis too with Gearheart is very nutty. Being able to reset his spell ability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, like I mean, he's an auto include card. He's just like
Yeah,
Fukusia and Terenova for their respective factions.
yeah, for sure. I agree.
So yeah, like I guess this is a stopping point that we want to get to.
There's a lot of cards to get through, but I think I'm happy with the tier list that we've done so far. I mean, it looks like we've put a lot of cards in the upper tier levels, so I guess that maybe we just haven't gone through the whole list yet. But I feel like the price of power expansion definitely has brought cards that I don't want to say
or
this is like it's not
overtunes.
yeah like it's not a bad thing, but I guess like if you compare it to like the look, I haven't been around for too long with Gwent, but if you compare it to like the Way of the Witcher cards or even Master Mirror, these cards are just like insanely powerful. Like it's just brought another dimension to the game.
Yeah, like and then like you were talking about, a lot of these cards are a lot more wow factor in terms of what they do compared to other cards in the previous expansions because the game was just at a different state back then. Now a lot of these cards are playing for way more than they should, and that's kind of what's changed the game for good and bad. You know, I wasn't around like during pre-homecoming days when Gwent now became what it is now, where like they had bronze cards, silver cards, and gold cards.
Mm-hmm.
Silver cards did something completely different. Um, and like I said, I think that all ties into like what the new cards are coming out in a few days. I believe was it. I think on the 7th of December, there's 12 new cards coming.
I think so. Yeah. So I think they started kind of like giving hints about what they look like, but yeah, I think we have to wait and see what they come out with.
Yeah, I missed the open. Well, not the open. Um, the last tournament that they had recently. I mean, I think I was at work when I missed those, but I saw that they got teased again.
Yeah.
Some
There's
new
been teasers here
cards.
and there. Yeah.
I'll have to look on Reddit to see what teases there are because I haven't been keeping in the loop for those. But yeah, so yeah, this is a good stopping point. I know we probably wanted to get a little further along, but we wanted to just kind of reevaluate what these cards are now doing compared to what they were doing when we did our first, reviews of them when they dropped. Because back then they just weren't doing as much as we could have assumed that they were going to do in today's day.
Yeah, I mean, it's also because there's a lot of, like, for example, remember when the students came out, we're like, oh, it's just, it's really hard to get them to stick on the board and it takes a long time for them to work. And then when Alumni came out, we're like, oh, it makes sense. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's just, and say what to say. We're like, why is she, why have they come out with a card like this? What can we actually play with? And then when Meditating Mages and all that came out, we're like, oh, that makes sense, and it all kind of works well together. Same with Messenger of the Sea. So yeah, I think like as time went on and the other cards came out, we saw the synergies there and how they all work together. So I'm happy with our tier list. I think hopefully the viewers enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next video. We are going to do a part 2, potentially part 3, because there's a lot of cards to get through. And we hope to see you for the next episode.
All right, everybody.